All right, welcome. Today we're diving into Hinduism, one of the world's oldest and, let's be honest, most complex faiths. It's a tradition that really challenges our whole idea of what a religion even is. So let's get into it.
Right off the bat, we hit a puzzle. Unlike Christianity with Jesus or Islam with Muhammad, Hinduism doesn't have one single person who started it all. And that's not just a weird fact. It tells us something really important. This is a faith that didn't just appear one day. It grew, organically over thousands of years.
And the puzzle just gets deeper. So while there are tons of sacred texts, you've probably heard of the Vedas, there isn't one single book, like a Bible or a Quran, that every single Hindu agrees is the central scripture. Different groups, different traditions, they focus on different texts.
And to top it all off, there's no single prayer or statement of belief, no Apostles' Creed, that all Hindus share. So you might be thinking, if it doesn't have these things we normally associate with a religion, what in the world is it? And how has it become a spiritual home for so many people?
A spiritual home to nearly 1 billion people, in fact. That makes it the world's third largest religion. So this isn't some small, obscure tradition. We're talking about a massive, living faith that's been shaping lives for millennia. To really get our heads around it, we're going to need a different way of thinking.
See, we often think about religions using what you could call a tree model, right? There's a seed, the founder, a trunk, the early history, and then all the branches, the different denominations. But that model just completely breaks down for Hinduism. Instead, I want you to picture a river, a huge, mighty river. And over thousands of years, all these different streams, local beliefs, new philosophies, ancient customs have all flowed into it, creating this vast, diverse, and incredibly powerful current.
So let's do it. Let's go way back in time and look at some of the first and most important tributaries that started feeding this great river of faith.
Our journey starts a long, long time ago. About 4,500 years ago. And we see two major ancient sources flowing together. First, you've got the incredibly sophisticated Indus Valley civilization. And then, a little later, the migration of a people we call the Aryans, which kicks off what's known as the Vedic period.
Now, the Indus Valley people are fascinating because we still can't read their writing. But they left behind some incredible clues. Archaeologists have found these little female figurines that really suggest they worshipped goddesses, maybe linked to fertility. We see these carved seals with figures sitting in what look a lot like yoga poses. Some people think this could be an early version of the god Shiva. And they built these huge public baths, which tells us that purifying yourself with water was probably already a really big deal.
The next major stream flows in around 2000 BCE with the migrating Aryan peoples. And they brought some absolutely foundational elements that would shape Hinduism forever. They brought sacred scriptures called the Vedas, the ancient and beautiful language of Sanskrit, a system of rituals led by priests called Brahmins, and a really distinct four-part social structure.
And this brings us right into the Vedic period. This was a time that was really defined by those texts, the Vedas. The main focus back then was on maintaining order, both cosmic order and social order, and you did that through carefully performed rituals.
At the very heart of that social order were the 4 varnas or classes. So at the top you had the Brahmins, they were the priests and the teachers. Next were the Kshatriyas, the warriors and rulers who protected society. Then came the Vaishyas, the merchants, the farmers, the people who made the economy run. And finally the Shudras, who were the laborers and service providers. This system basically defined everyone's role in society.
And here's the crucial part. This social order wasn't just seen as a good idea some people came up with. No, it was seen as sacred, as coming from the gods themselves. According to a famous hymn in the Rig Veda, the whole world was created from the sacrifice of a giant cosmic being named Purusha. His mouth became the priests, his arms became the warriors, his thighs the merchants, and his feet the laborers. So society's structure wasn't just a human invention, it was literally woven into the fabric of creation.
Okay, now, a completely new tributary starts flowing into the river, and this one represents a massive philosophical shift. Sages and thinkers started asking much deeper questions like, are these rituals really enough? What am I, really? What is the self? And this marks a huge turn, away from focusing on life in this world and toward a deep, profound quest for liberation from this world.
This new way of thinking introduces the idea of samsara. Samsara is the endless cycle of birth, death, and then rebirth.
And you have to get this, it is not seen as a good thing. It's actually a state of suffering, like being stuck on a cosmic Ferris wheel that you desperately want to get off of.
So what keeps that wheel spinning? What powers the whole cycle? Well, that would be karma. The word literally just means action. It's this universal law of cause and effect. Every single thing you do, think, or say, good or bad, plants a seed. And that seed will absolutely determine the kind of life you're born into next time around.
So if the body dies and the personality changes, what is it that actually gets reborn? The answer to that is the Atman. This is your eternal soul, your truest self. It's not your body, it's not your thoughts, it's not your emotions. It's that pure, unchanging spark of consciousness that's just experiencing all of those things.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate goal of the whole spiritual journey. If samsara is the problem, then moksha is the solution. It means liberation, freedom, release. The entire point is to finally free your Atman from this endless, exhausting cycle of rebirth and suffering.
There's this beautiful line in a famous Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita, that just captures this idea perfectly. It says, the soul simply discards worn-out bodies and puts on new ones, just like we change our clothes. It's such a powerful and, poetic way to imagine this journey through countless lifetimes. Now, this whole idea creates a fundamental tension, right? How are you supposed to live a good life, raise a family, do your duty in the world, if your ultimate goal is to escape the world entirely? Well, Hinduism came up with a pretty brilliant framework to balance those two things.
First, it recognizes 4 perfectly legitimate goals for a human life. Sure, moksha, liberation, is the ultimate aim, but life isn't just about giving everything up. It is also good and right to pursue dharma, which is your duty and living ethically. It's good to pursue artha, which is prosperity and material success, and it's good to pursue kama, which is pleasure of all kinds. Life is absolutely meant to be lived, and lived fully.
And it maps these goals onto 4 ideal stages of life. You start out as a student, learning about the world and your duties. Then you become a householder, and this is the time for career, marriage, family, all that good stuff. As you get older, you enter the forest dweller stage, kind of like a retiree, where you start to pull back from worldly affairs. And finally, some may choose to become a renunciant, totally detached from everything, focusing only on that ultimate goal of moksha. It's a path that really honors every single phase of a human life.
So we come back to where we started, to this central idea, Hinduism as a great absorptive river, not a rigid, exclusive tree, and thinking about faith this way, as something that can be fed by many sources, something that's always flowing and evolving, it leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? If a religion can be a river, how might that change the way we think about our own beliefs and the beliefs of others? That's something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.